Hello, Dr. Ben Pearson Nelson. I'm president of the Chesterfield County Council of Parent-Teacher Associations, and tonight we have a special guest, Dr. Mervyn Doherty. He is the superintendent responsible for running all of our schools here at Chesterfield County. And I just want to run through a few questions to give our members in the community an idea of what's happening now in terms of the budget season. So Merv, if I could start by asking you, what impact does the budget have on our children?
Great question to start off with. Well, the budget, as you know, we are really going after salaries for all employees. We know that Chesterfield County is an attractive place to work, but we still have to meet the market needs. And by going after highly qualified teachers and personnel, by paying them at the appropriate rate, our students get the benefit of outstanding instruction and leadership in our schools. And that's an extremely important piece of just the aspect of salaries. Not to mention the opportunities of making sure our schools are well kept, great air systems, HVAC, they're properly taken care of, supplies for the schools, making sure that our buses run on time, making sure we have nutrition. Every aspect of our budget affects the children from the pickup of the day throughout the school day and then dropping them off at the night, as well as running evening and after school activities.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's a great answer, and I love that you led with investing in our teachers, because that really is an area of great concern, obviously, and something I'm sure our teachers will love to hear, that we are looking to invest in them first and foremost. Leading into this, what impact does the budget have on teachers?
Well, last year, I'm going to go back to last year because we made an agreement with the county to look at a salary study for teachers, and they had specific staff as well. Knowing that this year we were going to look at a study for everyone else. So roughly our whole package is 11,000 employees. And the budget, as you look at it, now we are in phase 2 of study 1. So I made a promise to our employees that I would fight for salaries. Our school board honored that promise, and our county honored that promise, and I'm very grateful for that. But now we're in study 2 for our teachers, and that moves them up in the salary scale and increases the salary scale for all staff from year 1 to year 35. As well as looking at the rest of our employees to get them now out of the compression area and move them up the salary scale. So last year we dealt with compression for teachers. This year we're dealing with salary growth. This year we'll start the same way with our non-teaching staff and do the same thing.
Yeah, that's great. I always love your story about how we affected the difficulties we had with bus drivers. You know, it turned out that increasing wages, paying people well, got us more bus drivers.
I think that's a great point to make. You know, we did 2 things this year. That one was a bus driver, so when we paid people appropriate salary, we had people apply, and our bus services are running fairly well. Very large school system, 9 million miles a year. Also, we had a substitute teacher, and we offered an incentive and pay structure, and we now have almost 3 times as many substitutes as we had at the start of the year. So I think there is a correlation between let's pay you the appropriate salary and you'll come to work in Chesterfield.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that investment makes a real difference, and it keeps Chesterfield
absolutely
the great place to work, because people, we look at Henrico or Richmond, you know, people have options, and we want to keep Chesterfield's top on their list of places to work. Can you explain what a needs-based budget is?
The code allows me to do this. In the Virginia Code, it allows me to present to the school board a needs-based budget. It are the needs that we see in the district. Now, we have a lot more needs that are in our budget. I could come with a budget that would put us over $1 billion. Most school systems our size are between 1.4 and 1.6 billion budget anyway. And so this year we're at 761 million. The options that we have to move forward is say, okay, what do we think the county can afford and the state can afford in our growth and everything else? And we looked at the needs of our students, the needs of our staff, and also some infrastructure to make sure that we keep things running. And that's where we ended up with the budget that we are presenting currently.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, and I think we're lucky both at the county and state level that we seem to be flush with cash relative to where we thought we might be given conditions. It turns out that the county has more money, the state has more money, so maybe a moment where we can really put that investment back into our schools that we sort of lost.
And I think what the budget that's in place right now, between Governor Northam leaving, putting in a budget, and then Governor Youngkin honoring that budget and adding some of his things that he would like to do, it didn't affect us. It actually kept us in a very good place. That we are growing. The expectation is having 1,500 more students next year, which added about $10 million more to our budget right off the bat, and the opportunity to know that everyone now is in agreement that we are growing. So there's no one out there saying, well, I don't think you're growing. Well, they know we are, because I really believe that we'll be over 65,000 next year, at this time next year. So when you think about the projections that are going on, the amount of growth that's occurring in our center of the world, Chesterfield, we do believe that the funding is there and the funding is available, and we are working very closely with the state. There's several pieces of legislation that could benefit us with removing some of the support cap that gives us additional funding, as well as looking at some additional funding from the county. But we're just trying to catch up from a decade of things going on, and not looking at salary, not looking at the needs. And so I'm committed to every year giving a needs-based budget, not what people want me to give, but what I think is important to make sure we move forward. And we have to continue to move forward, and this budget actually shows that we're trying to keep us moving in the right direction to maintain a very strong academic school system for all of our children, which benefits all of our citizens. So if we have 345,000 citizens, a strong school division benefits all of our residents. Strong school systems benefit your property, benefit your workforce. We can't keep enough people graduating to get them to work, because they're hiring our students before they even graduate out of our CTE programs. And so there's a lot of demand and a lot of expectations for our school system, which we are trying to meet the challenges of.
Yeah, that's a great point. I really do think that people who are in the know understand how important schools are, not just to the kids, not just to the parents, and they're very important to those two groups, obviously, but it really does benefit the entire community. And I know that my house is worth more being in Chesterfield County with Chesterfield County schools than it would be anywhere else, and that's important to a lot of, especially folks who've lived here for a long time, to realize you're retaining property value even if your kids are grown up and gone, because of our strong schools. I think that's an excellent point. Can you explain the budget process briefly for people who don't know how this works?
We actually start our budget process as soon as we finish the last year's budget process. So we started just about early summer, started talking. We meet with all of our departments. What are your needs? They give us white papers at times on things that they need. We start talking to the county early in the fall. We put everything together. We start giving information out as we start building it. What are our needs? Where do we see us? What do our projections see? With the county, what do you see our projections? The state, what are we looking at? We pull for ADM in September. We say, okay, we were ahead of schedule with our growth, but we're one of the few school divisions that are growing. And then we come to the school board officially in January with a needs-based budget. We then go out to town hall meetings. We've had, I think we have 7 or 8. We've got 2 more coming up, and then we will finish the town halls. We have several work sessions with the board that we put on in the PBR, so, the PMR, so they're broadcasted, and we will come back to the school board in February 22nd to have them vote on the budget as well as the CIP. We are obligated to send the budget to the county by March 1st. So we feel very comfortable with our budget. We feel we've addressed the needs that we can, and we didn't get carried away with the ask. but we do think that the ask is an appropriate one.
And CIP, can you just explain what that is? 'Cause I don't know
Well,
if
that's an
everyone knows.
opportunity for us to look at the needs of our buildings. So the opportunity to say, okay, what buildings do we need to rebuild? What buildings should we add to, have new ones? Right now we have 5 elementary. It's 2 new elementary and 3 rebuilds. We have 3 middle schools, 2 rebuilds. It would be Falling Creek and Midlothian, and then the new 360 West, which will give us a great amount of relief from Tomahawk Creek and Bailey Bridge. And then the opportunity for a new high school out 360, as we know that all of our high schools. So as we build new schools, we plan to redistrict, because you can then have space. Right now we do not have any space at the middle or high to redistrict. So this will give us that opportunity.
Yeah, and a lot of those schools, it's tight. I mean,
Right.
we fill them up quickly.
And then we will then meet with the county and come up with the overall bond plan, and then make that public. The county will on their end. And then the goal is to go to referendum or the bond vote in November of 22. And the great thing about that, we'll be able to start construction hopefully in that summer. But the 2 middle schools, the Falling Creek rebuild and the 360 West, we are ahead of schedule with different funding opportunities, as well as some funding money from the state if the budget stays, and some county money to go ahead and put them outside of the bond referendum to get ahead of schedule. With Falling Creek, looks like it's going to open in 24, and the possibility of the new 360 West either in 24 or in 25. Just depends on some work they're doing now.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on. I mean, it seems like we're opening new schools and building new schools and making plans all the time.
And I don't think there's anyone that think that we're not behind in that area. It's just making sure we have the money that we need and make sure we don't create too much of a debt service problem for ourselves.
Right. If people want to learn more about the budget, where can they go? Where do you?
They can
direct
go
people?
right online, the front page. They can click. There's I think a 94 slide presentation about the budget. Also, the viewing of the budget meetings that we have, the presentations, and the work sessions.
Great. Let me ask you this: what role do you see the PTA playing in the budget process?
Well, the PTA I think has a vital part. One is they support their local schools, and so we believe our budgets affect every local school. And the opportunity, because they're on the ground doing work at the schools, they see the needs as well. I think they're outstanding advocates for us. I think the greatest voice you have in any school system are the parents. Without the parents supporting this, without the parents, being involved in the child's education, it's not as valuable. It doesn't have the greatest meaning that we could have. And so that's why I think the PTA's parent involvement have a greater impact of talking to their legislators at the state and talking to their board of supervisors and talking to the county about the funding aspect and making sure that their voices are heard and that they see the county moving and the state moving to support schools. Everyone they're talking to is an elected official. So everyone we talk to, when you hear about an election time, they support schools. When it's not election time, do they still support schools?
That's right.
And that's the key.
Yep.
And that's something we should all remember.
Yes. Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree with the absolute importance of parents advocating actively, because you're absolutely correct. That's what brings attention. That's what brings focus.
And a lot of times people see PTAs as fundraisers or volunteers in schools, but they are great advocates, as we see all the time. And we have some very powerful advocates in our PTAs, which I'm very thankful for, who go up to Richmond and talk to their legislators, who make statements, who speak up, as well as speak to the Board of Supervisors in the county, and making sure that everyone understands the value of a well-funded school system.
Yeah, absolutely right. In fact, Friday we're going up, our delegation is going up to talk to our senators and delegates at the state. And obviously we're very involved locally in terms of talking to the school board now and talking to the Board of Supervisors, who ultimately control the local budgets, which is coming up quickly. Let me ask you this. if you could advise a citizen, a parent, a teacher, what if they could do one thing? If they could say, I can do one thing to help, what would you say to that person? What one thing would be the most impactful?
I think I'm going to look at it in two areas, Ben. One is if it's about the budget, let elected officials know how important it is to fund education. Outside the budget, volunteer in schools. Get around children, get involved with reading to kids, get involved with activities at schools, because we can all touch the life of a child, and if we each touch the life of one child, we've changed not only the area, but it's a ripple effect that you have with water when you throw a rock in it. The rock hit one place, but the ripple travels several rings, and affecting that one child affects several different other children.
Yeah, no, I love both those answers. I actually just was at my son's middle school today, Robius Middle School, and nothing's more invigorating and makes me more hopeful than being around our students, being around our teachers, and seeing what's happening in our schools. But I want to emphasize also your other point. So the key point for PTA, for our members, our citizens, in terms of making sure our schools are fully funded is making that contact. So contacting your board of supervisors, find out who your supervisor is for your district, and make that contact and say, it's important to me that schools are fully funded, because that's really fundamental. If our elected officials know that we stand behind strong schools, we stand behind our teachers getting paid as professionals and paid well. If we stand behind these things, we have to say it. We have to say it out loud. We have to email. We have to call. Show up to the meetings. Find out who your supervisor is, and make those things happen. Well, Merv, I want to thank you. I know you're a busy man. I really appreciate your time, and I think it's very helpful for our members and our citizens in Chesterfield to really know how this works. And I appreciate you bringing folks in and helping them be part of this great democracy. So thank you for your time. And thank you, everyone, for supporting our schools.